Everybody, it's your boy Chris. It's your boy Chris. It's another amazing episode of Financipation. This channel is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth, and it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. So on this channel, everybody, I try to give you a six-figure MBA level worth of investing and financial knowledge for free. And the things that I teach you on this channel, people generally have to spend six figures or whatever in grad school to learn it, okay? So today, guys, first and foremost, happy Valentine's Day. And I want to basically just kind of congratulate to all the happy couples out there and to all the people who basically are trying to, I guess, have a commendable relationship in this crazy world that we live in. Today, guys, I have a very special guest. Mike and Joyce, these people have been married for literally over 30 years. It's been amazing just kind of seeing the
40 to be exact, Chris.
40 to be exact. Oh, all right, cool. You guys have been married longer than I've been alive. And that's a plus. And kind of more or less, I just want to kind of get some of you guys' thoughts about how you made your marriage work. In my generation, a lot of people are not getting married. I just kind of want to talk to two amazing people who have done it big. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And by the way, everybody, please hit that like button, please comment, and please subscribe, okay? So first off, Mike and Joyce, where did you guys meet, I guess?
We met in college, freshman year, first week, and that's where it all started at. We went to get an education and we ended up finding our true love's desire. Michael held the door for me, and that was impressive because even 40 years ago, that kind of chivalry was starting to die down. So that was impressive. That left an impression even then.
Got you.
Mama raised me right, Chris. Mama raised me right.
Absolutely. Definitely. So even back then, Joyce, you said he was a smooth operator.
Classy, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. As far as marriage and everything, how did marrying the right person, because you guys have been married for 40 years, how did marrying the right person, I guess, help you both like kind of just build generational wealth, and how did it help you both professionally, I would say?
Well, I would definitely say, Chris, that being spiritually united on one accord helped it immeasurably. First of all, we seek God first before we actually make moves or make financial moves in any direction, because without God, it won't work anyway. And we try to consult one another and come into agreement before we make any major decisions. One of the things that we did first was, we promised each other that we would not spend $100 over $100 without each other's consent. Now we can. But that was the parameter that we was able to keep. And, listen, it worked for us.
Yeah. And I think making sure that you have the same ideology about stewardship, that you share the same understanding that you're only stewards over what you have. And then that helps out when you start making major purposes and now purchases. And now to the point where we are, where we're looking at estate planning. That agreement helps because then we were looking at the model and kind of reading up on the Rockefellers, their estate planning, and then kind of comparing it to the Vanderbilts. And we're like, okay, there's one style where you go in and you're constantly distributing your wealth. So generations later, it could possibly all be used up.
So what she's talking about, Chris, is the Rockefellers. When David Rockefeller died, he left $3.3 billion still in his family's account. When Gloria Vanderbilt died, she only left $1.3 million because they did not come into a consensus and keep that generational wealth growing. Now, both families were top of their game, in the 17th and 18th centuries. But look what happened at the end. So we're making sure that one, God is the center, and that two, when we make financial decisions, we're basing them on wisdom and not just haphazardly distributing our money anywhere.
Got you. Got you. Now, when I always want to ask this question, when you two were dating and everything, how did you get that whole financial one accordness? Because you met in college, so a lot of times people, the guy is working and the woman is working, the guy's still in college or the guy's in med school, the wife is already nurse or whatever. You guys got on one accord. Were you always on one accord, or did that kind of just grow because of that just kind of just grow with you all?
It grew, but even then, paying attention to each other's spending habits. You know, when Mike get paid, does he have to go out and get the latest at the time? Maybe CD? No CD. Maybe it was a tape, you know, but it wasn't an 8-track, but it was a cassette or whatever the latest album was. You know, what's his priority? Where does he spend his money? And same for me, he watched, did I value having the most expensive pair of shoes? Because those are indicators about how we would move forward. And that, for a lot of couples, and for us, it was just a conversation. After noting it, then we came into agreement about how we're going to spend, how we're going to save. We're still going to gift each other, but you have to know your priorities.
And I tell you, Chris, it might be henpecked, but I remember when she was pregnant with our first child, I remember coming home, getting on my whole check and saying, listen, give me back what you don't need. Now, in order for me to do that, to definitely a level of trust, and I did trust her. And plus, my goal was to take care of my family. I felt like I didn't make money for me, I made money for us. So I think that's a big difference too.
But talking about those things, they just don't happen. It's just not where you've got to talk about what are your priorities? What do you want to do? Where do you see us heading in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? And then coming up with a strategy to get. Is buying a house it? Is it getting a car or a van? For us, many of people in our age group were like, you're kidding, I'm never getting a van. But we reached that point where we did need a van. We needed to be realistic about it. But now they're SUVs. My daughter will not be caught in a van.
Do you want to tell me about the cookie jar?
And that's one of the things.
Yeah, tell us a story.
We had a cookie jar, Chris, when we first started out, and we would put, I think it was like
half and half to meet the rent.
We would just put money in the cookie jar, and that's how we start our savings. And in 1 year, we just made a decision. We were going to cut back on any kind of travel, cut back on eating out in restaurants, and cut back on a lot of different things. And we saved up 10 cookie jar in 1 year. Now, that might not be much today, but back then, that was a pretty sizable amount.
How much did you save in 1 year in a cookie jar?
$10,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. And that was just from not going on vacations, not eating out or whatever, just eating at home. Wow, 10 G's, 10 stacks.
That's right.
Got you.
And we took that 10 grand and bought our first house.
Cover down payment.
Well,
it was the down payment. I mean, but still. You know.
What year was this in NY or was this in Pennsylvania?
This was in New York.
Brooklyn, Bronx, what borough?
In Brooklyn.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my first. Yeah, Brooklyn and the borderline of Queens. Brooklyn and Queens.
Got you. 10 stacks for all right, got you. I love it. So every couple has a spender and every couple has a saver. Who's a spender? Who's a saver?
Michael is definitely the frugal one.
Hey, that's that Leonard line. He got that Leonard line.
Yeah. And I always say he spends, but his spending is always within the thousands of thousands. When I spend, my toys don't cost as much. Like Michael's toys are boats and cars and trucks. So they are bigger toys. So you have to make that. I may appear to be spending more because I'm buying smaller ticket items, but they do add up, I'm sure.
But trust me, she's a good for Amazon.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Definitely. I would say in my household, my wife, I'm probably the when I buy my toys, I buy the expensive ones. I'll say it that way. I get the guns, I get the basketball tickets, I get the flights or whatever. So we can go see a fight. That's what I do. So it's I save money, but when it's time for me to have a little bit of fun, I definitely step on a night on the town. That's for sure.
Well, I tell you also, we are just make sure that all those ticket items, we have to come into agreement. It must come into agreement. It's not like I'm going to buy and hide it from her.
But our friends did that. We had friends who did that.
You know, yeah.
It's kind of hard to hide a house, though.
Yeah, yes.
Got you. No, I love it.
Yeah.
And as far as being on the same accord and everything, I guess, Mike, what advice would you give men out here who actually are looking for a wife, who do want to get married? What advice would you give them as far as what kind of qualities they should be looking for in a wife? Not a girlfriend or a booty call, a wife.
Well, first of all, they got to actually look for a wife. Look for somebody who fits the bill of a wife. You know, there's an old adage, I don't want to really say it on here, but the bottom line is you can't take somebody who's in the street and make them a housewife. I'll put it that way. And more importantly, you got to meet somebody and take the time to get to know them. Like the young people today, I feel, are rushing. You know, they want to go into a relationship this week and then get married the next week. You don't know that person well enough yet. I think that you got to take time to know people. You know, take them different places. Find out what their reading habits are. Find out what their likes and dislikes are. You know, take them on a date to the library. You know, those kind of things I think are more important, because then you get to see what people's tastes are like and where their head is. Take them to museums. Joyce and I went to the museums in Manhattan a lot when we first got together. We used to take trips together and do things together in New York that didn't cost a lot of money. And, you know, botanical gardens, for instance.
Our first date was actually ice skating.
Yeah.
And that was, my mind was blown, because a movie or a disco was a usual. But to go ice skating, oh my goodness, it was amazing. I just felt like, wow. So in answer two, I would say you have to define what you feel is wifey material, is a wife material. Because if you don't have a definition in your head, then you're going to be swayed by the world's wisdom of what constitutes a wife or a husband. You have to know, what is it that you want? What do you want your daddy to look like when your children are saying daddy? What character do you want him to reflect when your children are calling him daddy? Is that something that you want? So you need to define it in your head before you start letting other people.
And Chris, I can be very honest with you. Joyce was the first young lady that I've ever dated that I really wanted to be the mother of my children. And to me, that's big, you know? And I thank God that he granted me that. I never had any children outside my marriage, you know? And I think that's key also, you know, keeping a good marriage, household, and keeping your house tight, you know, keeping it tight.
I love it.
We have a lot of family.
No, definitely.
Work with blended family.
And you guys' background, I obviously know, but for my listeners and everything, as far as where you guys grew up, go ahead. Let's go there as well. Joyce, let's start with you. Where did you grow up? And then Mike, where did you grow up? And how did that kind of shape your mindset about women and about men?
I was born in North Carolina, in Wilmington. I grew up partially, most of my formative years were in North Carolina. And then I was brought back and forth to the city for a while. and I didn't like it. I think by the time I was in high school, I stayed here permanently, and then I went to college, and that's where I met Michael. But my grandparents were very instrumental. They owned a farm. So when I came to New York and I had to go in one door and out that same door, it was a new concept. It was definitely culture shock. I grew up feeling that I was rich, and I had no idea that I wasn't one of the elite until I came to New York, and I realized that people lived differently than the way I lived, because property and acres, hundreds of acres, is what I grew up on. And so coming and finding that, in the city, the house that we were so proud of, we just had a little swatch of land in that house. So it was definitely, but ownership was what I grew up with. So it was different to take on the mindset of, all right, I'm a steward over that. But here, I'm also it was confusing in terms of, the adjustment from what I had seen.
So for me, Chris, I grew up in the projects, but the project for me, my mom and dad was there. My mom and dad stayed together. I was raised with my mother and my father. My dad was a public servant and an entrepreneur because he was a barber. So he had his own barbershop, as well as he cut here in the hospital, in Kings County Hospital. And so he gave me the idea about, that you don't have to have one stream of income, you can have more than that. But to make a long story short, my mom and dad wanted us to move out of the projects. And my dad, I had made it to General Motors Institute. I was going to be an engineer for General Motors, the car company in Detroit, Michigan. And I also made it to John Jay College. And my dad conned me. He didn't want me to go to another state. So he said, look, I'm going to buy this brownstone in Bed-Stuy. And for you, I'm giving you the top floor all to yourself. So you got your own apartment. All I'm asking you to do is stay here. And he said, the food is free because your mother's cooking. Now, what you want to do? I stayed in New York because it was more profitable. Okay, I had my own apartment, and that was I got that place. I was 16 or 17 years old, and I had my own apartment. Not bad. No. So that convinced me to stay, and that convinced us more to look at home ownership in a different way. That was my mom and dad's house, but I always wanted to have my own. So by the time Joyce and I got married, I was already in the mindset of wanting to be a homeowner.
And if I could just interject for a second, there are also differences. Michael grew up with two parents. I had my stepfather. So I just want anybody out there that's listening, especially, women, we're not saying it is God's plan that we stay in our marriages, but if you're in a relationship where you're hurting, being abused, that's a criteria that's different. Your children's safety come first. So my mom had to make a decision at an early age. And my grandparents stepped in, so I never knew the difference. I always knew I was loved until my mom remarried. But I just would not want anybody to get the feeling that you have to stay. Our 40 years, we're grateful for it, but never have I had a fear for my safety. And I always say, I have laughed more than I cried. And so just, don't think that if you're in a harmful situation that you have to stay there. That's not the message that we want to send to people.
And the other thing is that love, Chris, is an action word. So we learned, I know you might get into this later, but we learned about our love language and how to love on one another. I learned to listen to my wife because in the beginning I didn't. And I remember buying her gifts that I wanted her to have, Chris, as opposed to buying her gifts that she wanted.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference in getting someone something that they want, as opposed to you getting them something that you want them to have. And so I would encourage marriage couples to consider that, listen to one another, hear one another out. So now I'm telling this secret now on live TV, right? But during the year, I listen to her when she says, "Oh, I like that bag," or "Oh, I like those shoes," or "Oh, I like this," and I take my phone out and I write down what it is, so that by the time Christmas comes, I got a list of some things that I know she likes. And so that's a little good tip for men, listen, write it down, and then proceed.
That's where communication comes in,
That's game. I love it. I love it. I always like to start kind of at the beginning with people because, Mike, you said you grew up in a 2-parent household. Even though it was the projects, it was the hood. You grew up in a 2-parent household. Your father was an entrepreneur. He was a homeowner. He put that instinct in you. I love that. Joyce, you as well. You grew up on a farm, but you understood the time-honored property of land. You understood the time-honored property, basically, of family. And I love that because my generation, that unfortunately, the grandparents that I grew up, I don't see those types of grandparents anymore, unfortunately. And it's kind of unique seeing YouTube because, no offense, these are the kind of aunts and uncles that I grew up looking at. Your example. And I get kind of worried because the next generation, that's just not what I'm seeing from my generation, unfortunately. I don't see the Michael Leonards. I don't see the Joyce Leonards. I unfortunately don't see that with a lot of our people my age. And I'm kind of, I want to kind of change that. Me and my wife, we want to change that a little bit to some extent. So, yep.
They're out there.
Yeah, they're out there, Chris. And hopefully, listen, this, coming from a criminal justice background, we've always been taught that there are more Black men in prison than there are in college. And that we found out that's a lot.
Yes,
there are more Black men in this country than there are in jail. And so, that's the hope and belief that we've got to really live on. I mean, we've got 3 engineers in our family alone, Black young engineers, you, EJ, and Carl, and that's right, we can touch them and feel them. So there are, we can't believe the hype. Nah. The newspapers and all that are gonna always cast a negative doubt or negative shade, I'll put it, on what young Black and Hispanic people are doing, or brown people, I should say, are doing. We've got to look around at our own and gather our own and begin to speak to those issues, even around Thanksgiving table. Talk about finances, talk about the things that affect us as the people, talk about the politics, talk about who we should be voting for, talk about who we should be electing as our personal representatives, But I know you want to go on to some other subjects, so I'll hold back a little bit.
I love this. I like letting my guests just kind of sit back and talk because you guys have so much wisdom and knowledge. You've been married for literally longer than I've been alive. And I don't see the Robert. I don't see the Uncle Robert Lees anymore. I don't see the Joyce Leonards. I don't see the Michael Leonards anymore in my line. And I want to do our part to kind of change that because you guys have so much wisdom and knowledge. You did say one thing, Mike, I want to ask you about though, the destruction of the image of Black men. So Mike and Joyce, do you believe that there is an agenda, I guess, to destroy the image of Black men in America and to kind of make us more effeminate and whatever? Do you think there is an agenda to kind of do that in the United States and to take us out of the home?
I think that has always been the agenda. What's new is the ability to get the word out, the internet and things of that nature. I just bought several books to donate to public schools. And one of the books that I purchased was the 1619 Project. And what I enjoy doing in my retirement is maybe going to those schools and having them read aloud and being able to read those books. Our hair, being free.
The lack thereof.
Being able to our hair the way we want to in the workplace. So all of those things, yeah. In answer to your question, yes. I think now more than ever, because exposure, a light has been shined on what's happening. And so the idea is to flip the script and say that we are the dividers, that we're being divisive because we're saying, ouch, game over.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. And so that's why you see the pushback on teaching the curriculum in public schools, because if you can't stop it now, it's already out there. So now you can demonize the people who are saying it's happened to us and it is part of history, and that you are miseducating our children by pretending that this never happened.
Yep. It's interesting you bring that up, because you take a look at Germany. Right now, Germany is kind of the European country that's running Europe. 70, 80 years ago, Germany was going through one of the darkest times in human history, period, as far as killing 6 million innocent Jews, as well as killing millions of innocent black Germans, millions of innocent non-Aryan, quote unquote, Germans and everything. And Germany right now is running Europe because they were very open about expressing and talking about their past and the racist history they did, what they did to the Jewish people, what they did to black Germans and people like that. Because Germany talked about their past, they were able to basically learn from it and to move on. Right now, with like Republican governors like Ron DeSantis and this guy in Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, and people like that, they're essentially trying to bury American history and act like it did not happen. And I think it's going to have hellish effects on our country, because if you sweep problems under the rug, it's not like they just go away. So as an educator, Joyce, what are your thoughts about primarily the Republican Party, because they're the ones doing this all over the country with school superintendents? What are your thoughts on them as far as trying to, I guess, ban critical race theory, ban the 1619 Project, and ban AP African American History Studies?
I think we need to continue to move forward. Telling our history. We cannot leave it up to educators. We can never leave it up to the people who intentionally enslaved us, forbid us to be educated, to learn to read and write. So we cannot leave it up to them. We have to continue to do what you're doing, get the word out. We have to continue to mentor our young men and women, and to be the who told the history to our children, because we can legislate new laws, and very often those laws are put there, but if you don't have the people to enforce those laws, then they're just a pacifier so that we stop talking loud. But even if you were to legislate the law tomorrow, and every school district had to be in compliance and taught critical race theory, the system that has been set up and it is ingrained in the very institutions, the financial institutions, the housing, the healthcare, all of those areas would not change overnight, because we cannot change people's hearts by putting a new law in. So we have to keep speaking the truth. And you know, it said that the truth will make you free. It won't say it will make you free. And so for those who are in real search of freedom, regardless of their ethnicity, we have to keep sounding the drum. We have to keep sounding the drum, because they are not letting up. It is more important to them forever, so that they keep this audacity going. It's not supremacy, it is audacity. And so, no, they're not going to bend, but we are a resilient people. So we have to keep educating our children. And then as a teacher, I tell parents, you don't have to stop everything you're doing. When you're washing the dishes, when you're vacuuming, whatever you're doing, those are teaching moments to pour into your children about their self-worth and about our history, about your family's history, and building that. So I am not expecting any of the Republicans to change. There are Democrats who vote as Democrats, but it favors them to be elected. but their ideology comes up with that of the past. So, we have to keep doing what we're doing, and we have to intensify it. We've got to intensify it.
And Chris, talking about this, the black against white issue and all of that, and reparations, and because we can go into all of that. I heard recently that when it came to the Holocaust, guys like Mel Brooks, who was a comedian, would talk about Hitler, and he made him the butt of his jokes purposely so that he could bring awareness to the Holocaust. Guys like Dick Gregory came by and he wrote a book. The book is the N-word. That's what he wrote it as. And the reason why he wrote what he said is because he knew that's what they were calling them. And he wanted them to understand whose book they were buying. And what it did was it raised the consciousness of the people who was reading it. The problem with the 1619 Project in the eyes of a DeSantis is that he doesn't want those truths to become illuminated.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. He doesn't want those truths to be illuminated, because once you illuminate those truths, it's just like once you see something, you cannot now unsee it again. Once you ring that bell, you can't unring that bell. And that's what these guys who are against the 1619 Project is really fighting against.
Yep. I agree. It's interesting because obviously I have roots in Miami. I lived there for 8 years and everything. You can teach AP European history. You can teach AP Asian history. You can teach AP Latin American history. You can teach AP Indian history. You cannot teach AP African American history. That's by design. Let's just cut right to the chase. The Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, he started his career by labeling his black opponent, Andrew Gillum, a monkey. Ron DeSantis has also passed laws basically making it perfectly legal to run over protesters who are peacefully protesting in the street. So they can try to put whatever narrative they want to put on it. At the end of the day, they do not want to teach young black minds and young white minds basically some of the great things that African Americans have contributed and that black Americans have contributed to this country. And that is completely by design. White men who threw bricks at little black girls who are trying to integrate schools, they do not want basically their grandchildren know that they threw bricks at little black girls. It's as simple as that. That is the reason why a lot of them are against teaching actual American, and critical race theory is actual American history, period.
Actual American
That's
history.
what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yep. You can't teach without us. Yeah, I so agree.
And you gotta remember, Moses on little women and children, women and children, all those things are the atrocities that they don't want to see. Those are the scabs that's on America, and they don't want to see it for what it is.
Well, it also, the truth would to them diminish their audacity. I call it audacity. It's not supremacy. I don't know why we choose that word, because it isn't.
There's nothing supreme about it.
No, it's quite the opposite. It is quite the opposite, that you would kill your own children, that you would rape women, and your own seed would be sold into slavery. I mean, that is some really hateful stuff. And so it's all about economics for them. So we are the target. And so I often think, oh my God, why? But we are a strong people. I often equate it to the dinosaurs. If we were not strong, we would have been eliminated. We would be extinct. But we have the capacity to stand, and we have to keep doing it and keep sounding the alarm, because with every institution against us, we have still survived. We are strong. We are strong. Not that we should have to be subjected to this, but we are not a weak people.
Yeah,
because we have survived and continue to raise up. And so that's why you demonize the group of people that you want to lord over. You make up lies about them, their character, their intellect, and you demonize those people to the people, both black and white, who aren't searching for the truth, that they take whatever is said to them and they just, and you do that generation after generation. And you tell yourself that for so long that some of these people may actually believe it. Their job is to try to get us.
And that's what we can't do. We can't believe it.
We know better.
Agreed.
So, yeah, you know what you do, Chris.
It's interesting because if you take a look at it in regards to what America says that essentially as black men, we are incarcerated, we're basketball players, we're football players, or we are essentially athletes. That's pretty much it. But when you look into it, there are 41,000 black men that are lawyers in America right now. There are 35,000 black men that are doctors. There's 130,000 black men that are engineers. There are 75,000 black men that are scientists. There's 45,000 black men that are financial advisors. There's 150,000 black men that are in IT. There are over 480,000 black men that are in STEM. There's less than 300 black men that are in the NBA. There's less than 1,000 black men that are in the NFL. And it's less than 1,000 black men that are signed as rappers. There are literally over 2,000 times more black men that are in science, technology, engineering, math, or healthcare. So it's kind of a joke that America only portrays black men like we're in the NBA, the NFL, we're incarcerated, or we're rappers. It literally makes no statistical sense, but that's kind of the way that they do it. All right, let's keep it moving. As a happily married couple, what are some of the biggest securities, Mike and Joyce, that you guys have found in being married to each other, being married to the right person?
What's your question again, Chris? What's the question?
Oh, what are some of the biggest securities in being married to the right person?
Insecurities or
no, securities. What are some of the biggest safety nets as far as being married to the right person?
Well, in terms of securities, knowing each other, finding out who each other are, what we do, what our likes and dislikes are. It's funny because it's just her birthday, for instance. I know the kind of candy she likes. If I bought her another kind of candy, she'd be like, "Who's that for?" But it goes even that simple, Chris. Just knowing what she likes. Joyce's love language is service. So I know that when I want to really please her, I could go bust some suds on some dishes in the kitchen, or mop the floor or sweep the floor. It's those kinds of things that make my wife smile because she knows then I'm considering her.
I always say, talk dirty to me, clean the toilet. That is my love language. Help me. And so knowing your partner's love language, really, really, really important. My baby's love language is touch. And that's gives him that sense of security. He needs to be touched. I call him the Velcro man. But understanding that makes our relationship better. You help me. That's my language. I'm available to touch you more.
There you go. So,
absolutely.
Especially when you're raising little ones. When you have little ones, you need that help. You need help. So changing diapers, that's my love language. Get in there and get dirty.
Absolutely.
But that's one of the books we recommend. What's his name, Chapman?
Gary Chapman.
Yeah, 5 Love. That's
Gary Chapman.
Yeah, we give that as wedding gifts.
Yeah, it's a powerful book, and if people follow it, they understand that that's a good, good thing.
Just gives you insights.
Yeah.
What are 2 other books you would recommend young couple? I mean, my wife and I have been married for 3 years. What are 2 other books you would recommend all couples read, Mike and Joyce?
How to talk.
Joyce went to go get the books, but one is How to Talk So That Your Mate Can Listen, and How to Listen So That Your Mate Will Talk. Because it's a two-way street, Chris. Sometimes we say things that cut communication off, and that's not good. If I lead with a negative statement, I'm going to shut my wife down. Whereas if I lead with an open-ended question or a positive statement, it makes a big difference.
This is how to talk so your mate will listen.
Let me bring that up.
So the 5 love languages and how to talk so your mate will listen. What's the third book you would recommend all couples read?
And the third one is Secrets of a Successful Marriage.
So all my listeners,
and I love this book.
Listen to this. Read these books, everybody. Listen to it. Listen to this knowledge. Next question.
One of the things that helped me was it really teaches you how to communicate. We assume we're communicating, but you communicate with your eyes, whatever. But also in a marriage, you will need to correct each other or maybe some things. I love this because it taught us how to follow the biblical model for that. And if we look at that model, you need to compliment twice before you criticize or even correct. And even if you were in school, even when the teacher had something to say about you that wasn't so great, a good teacher would first talk about your good qualities, your strengths, and then say, however, little Johnny needs, to practice self-control or patience. But it is definitely a tool that helps when you're communicating with each other, rather than telling Michael the things that annoy me first, because now he may shut down. So I need to compliment him and let him know, hey, I appreciate the way you made a bed this morning.
Absolutely.
Those kind of things. And then you've got an ear. Somebody's listening to you now, and you want to keep that going. You don't want to shut each other out. So both of these, they're both marked up. We've used them time and time again. Another thing I would recommend is staying connected to people who think like you. We've also often participated in and taught couples. You don't wait until your car is
my couples ministry, Chris.
Yeah. But you don't wait until your car has run out of gas before you take it to the gas station. You have preventive measures. And so your marriage needs those things too. So find yourself a group where you can hold each other accountable, where you feel the freedom to express yourselves. Create date nights. We look for people who have kids our kids' age. We volunteer. All right, it's your turn for a date night. We watch your kids, and then next time it's our turn. But that takes time building up those relationships, because at first you're reliant on your families. But those things help you to, they help the longevity of your marriage. They really do.
Absolutely. You guys are dropping some gems, and I'm loving this. As a guy who's recently married, this is the kind of these are the kind of conversations that I love to have. So yeah, let's keep it moving. A lot of people in my generation, Mike and Joyce, they say that marriage is outdated, and they don't mind becoming single parents, and they don't want to be with one person for the rest of their life. What are your thoughts on this new age concept?
Well, there's a difference between commitment and covenant, Chris. And that's what I have to say. I think that both are very difficult to do if you're getting married to think about your divorce. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some people get married, well, 5 years from now I'm gonna get a divorce, so I gotta watch what I'm doing. No. I came into covenant with my wife, and more important, I came into covenant first with God about my marriage. So my covenant covers me with my God first, and then my wife. So that before I leave my marriage, I must first consult my God and then consult my wife. Both of them would say to me, no, stay, right? I would believe so. And so I don't want to get into the semantics of it, but the bottom line is, you got to have a covenant, and covenant to me is even better than commitment. Because when I have that covenant, then I can go to my God and I could talk to him. And a lot of times, if I don't know how to get through to Joyce, I know who her father is. So I go to father on her and say, God, you got to show her what I mean, or show her how to do this. I can't tell her that now. I need you to do it for me. And some way, some shape, or some form, God has sent a messenger to her and get it right. And vice versa. I'm not, vice versa as well. She can go to God on me. So God became a triple cord in our relationship. And the Bible says that the triple four cord is not easily broken.
Yep.
Right? The two of us easily to break up, but that triple four cord holds. So when you have that, and that's the only third person I would recommend people invite into their marriage. And was it no entanglements? You're going to get entangled with Jesus.
Amen to that. Otherwise, you'll be out here looking like Will Smith.
Exactly. Hey, keep my wife's name out your mouth. Right. So,
but Chris, I think, and you let me know if you agree, that this kind of thinking that you described is a lack of commitment. And I think that's what we're seeing, a lack of commitment. Your wedding is an action, but a marriage is a process. And you have to be committed to the process. The process takes a while. And so that's what's missing, when people are kind of like, I can do this on my own. I don't need a man.
And they also put more pressure on the wedding. They put more emphasis on the wedding day than on the marriage. The marriage is going to last. The wedding day is only 24 hours.
Yep.
So you put more emphasis on the marriage and not on the wedding day.
And you make it harder for yourself, because if you believe the word, it says that one can put 1,000 to flight, but two can put 10,000. And that isn't even mathematically logical the way we think. So when you decide that I want to raise this child by myself and I don't need a father, you have really put yourself in a position to work harder, to accomplish things that you would not otherwise be able to without that spouse there, that other person. To me, if one can put 1,000 to flight, then two should be able to put 2,000. That's the math. But when you are in covenant, like Michael said, and you work on it together, then you can put 10,000. And that's what we need raising our children, our babies today. We don't need to try and do this. You are going against everything that was given to you. And then you're saying, I don't need your help. I'm going to do it all by myself.
So the key point there, Chris, is that God is an exponential God. And that when you place little in his hands, it becomes much. Exponential God, man. That's the power. It's to the second power. And so that's why we have to walk together. Bible says, how can two walk together? At least they agree. And so that's the other thing. These married couples are not coming into agreement. This is not my savings bank, my car, my house. This is our savings. This is our house. This is our car. And when you think about things like that, it doesn't make you selfish, because I can't be selfish about the things that I have. And first of all, Chris, God gave it to me anyway. So it ain't even mine.
Absolutely.
All the property I own is not mine. I'm just a steward over it. God gave it to me to be a steward, to watch over it for him, because it belongs to him.
Absolutely.
So when I think about it that way, I don't have to worry about it, because he takes care of it. But that was not yours, it's the Lord's.
Absolutely. Joyce, you said so many powerful gems in that, and you as well, Mike. I always tell, as far as having a man in the household, having a father to your children, as far as the yoke of being married. So I obviously got to do. I have an MBA. I talk finance. Generally speaking, if you take a look at the statistical numbers of what people who are married build, the average married family has 35 times more wealth than the average single person. Let that sink in. 35 times more wealth. Your child literally, and I always tell this to a lot of ladies who ask me who say this to me, that they don't need a man. Your child is literally at every statistical disadvantage if you basically raise a child in capitalism in America without a father. So, for instance, 90% of homelessness and runaway kids come from single mother homes. 85% of men sitting in federal prisons today grew up in single mother homes. 85% of children with behavioral disorders come from single mother homes. 80% of rapists come from single mother homes. 71% of high school dropouts come from single mother homes. 70% of youth and juvenile delinquent facilities come from single parent homes. 63% of youth suicides come from single parent homes. And girls that grow up in single mother homes without a father are 4 times more likely to be pregnant before they're 18. So whenever I meet female friends or family members or acquaintances or whatever who say they don't need a man, they're going to raise their child alone, I just basically point these numbers to them and say, statistically, you are putting your child at every statistical disadvantage if you want to do that. And financially, you're putting yourself at every statistical disadvantage, because it is insanely hard raising a child by yourself. I don't care whether you're a man or a woman. And to me, it's we got to get that mindset out of our culture and out of our community, because to me, it's kind of destroying the Black race. So let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving.
So they don't start out with their peers at the same starting point.
Not even close.
So what you just described is they're at a disadvantage from the very beginning. They walk into kindergarten and first grade, they have already started behind that line. Good point. Good. Wow. I mean, not that the information, but it's staggering when you think about it. And that we willingly, in some cases, as moms and women, are doing this to our children. And I think this information, when you present it, maybe it clicks in somebody's head that you are doing the child that you say you love a major disservice when you make this conscious decision.
I agree. Let's keep it moving to education. Joyce, you were a public school teacher. My father, after he got out of the U.S. military, he taught in the school system for a while, and he had some insane stories to tell. So, I guess as a minority female, as a double minority, Black and female, obviously, what advice would you give parents who are putting their kids in the public school systems? What advice would you give us? I would say.
And I think you and Reba. And we talked about, Reba and I started a dialogue about this when we visited, you guys visited us. And what I tell everybody, friends, family, strangers, be present. Be present. You may not be able to be the classroom mom, but you can make your presence known. One of the stereotypes that we as a people have to constantly try and disprove is that we don't love our children, that we value other things, material assets. And so open school night, show up. Somebody show up. Join the PTO. Read, come in and read to the class. That's an excellent way to get in now and to circumvent some of the things that are being told, oh, the district's not going to approve that. But you can have input at the book fair. Purchase books. You have insight. There is somebody deciding what scholastic books are being bought for the book fair. Get involved in the PTO. Those mothers are making the decision about which books are going to be displayed. That's your job, Mom. That's your job, Dad. Get in there and bombard the bookstore or the book fair, and every school has them. Picture day, show up. Comb your children's hair. Do you know how many times picture day, when the attention is given to the child that doesn't look like your child, and she's looking in the mirror, or she chooses not to, because there's no one there pripping her little curls and making her look cute. Show up, volunteer when it's picture day to make sure that your baby's self-esteem comes across in those photos. So there are many things waiting for legislation to change. We've been waiting for generations. Get in there, be seen. Career day. If you can't get off, but you could take off one day to come and talk about your career, represent. I often, as you said, was a double minority. And at first I used to go sit in my car and literally cry. But then I said, Joyce, you represent. You have got to pull it together, because you are the face that so many children will not see if you weren't here. So I taught gifted for many years. It was necessary because I then advocated for children to be in the gifted program. And that's why I decided I'm going in a regular classroom, because that's where the multitude is. That's where I can be seen more. I can be more visible. So read to your children the books that they don't want. Donate them to the school library, to the classroom library, and then to ensure they're being read, talk to the teacher and ask if you can be part of the read aloud. You'd like to come in and read. There are ways, and we are very, very smart people. We are creative. We are here to stay. And so we can't wait for DeSantis and the other Republicans to get on board. Our kids need us now. So show up.
And show out
in a good way.
Yeah.
And Mike, from the male's perspective, how would you say about this? How would you advise the men to get involved with their school, with their kids in school and everything? Because Joyce, she brought the house down from a female perspective.
I used to chaperone all my kids' trips. When the school had a trip, I knew I put in my paperwork at the job. I won't be here this day. I won't be here this day. I won't be here this day. Why? I'm gonna be a chaperone at my son's school or my daughter's school. You know, gotta get involved. So the teachers knew me at the school. The security team knew me at the school. You know, so when I walked through, they knew either I was there for something or they were gonna come to my aid, because they knew I was always helpful and always, pitching in.
But it helps your children. When 9/11 happened, my children were treated
very
special. Because we had input things. The other thing about that is when a parent's face is attached to a child, people are careful about what they say and do. Some people just gonna go renegade. The parents of the world who are just gonna be that. But when they can say, this parent, I've heard educators say, this mom shows up, this dad is very vocal. And so it does benefit your children for you to just show up smiling and willing to serve. It sets the community standard, and it really helps out. So I just say go there. You guys are great. So I can see you doing that already. Yeah. Well, you've got a little while.
Yep.
You got a little while.
Yes, we do. He's 10 months. Yeah.
Wow, that was bad.
Yep, this has truly been a blessing. I want to say thank you, Mike, and thank you, Joyce, because like I said, my generation, we just don't see the Robert Lees anymore. We don't see the Joe Mason Phelpses anymore. We don't see the Sandra Dailies anymore. We don't see, unfortunately, the Norman Phelpses anymore. I don't see the Michael Leonards or the Joyce Leonards. This is not the representation that my generation is seeing for Black folks, and I want to change that. I love the knowledge you guys are giving. I love the gems you're dropping. It's definitely something that me and my beautiful, lovely wife Reba are going to be using in our marriage. And I love the representation that you guys have set. Your kids are doing very well for themselves. My cousins are they're killing the game. And I love the Black representation. And this is what I want more people, not just Black, to see or whatever. And that's why I started Financipation, because this is the representation that the media does not show. And I wanted to change that. So, yep.
Good job.
Yep.
We're proud of you.
Good job. We're proud of you, Chris.
Hey, just trying to advance the community forward, just like you guys did. So with that, in closing, everybody, this channel, Financipation, is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth. And it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. You can please book a session with me if you want some financial consulting. The link's going to be below, and you can follow me on Instagram at @thereal_Financipation. My Facebook page is Financipation. You can also check out some of my digital, my e-products below. Mike, I definitely want to have you back on because I've been reading your book, Youth, Gangs, and God, in regards to your extensive career in law enforcement, and as far as being in that industry and being working with children with gangs. And I'm blown away about just a lot of the things that you've done. So you will be back on the show, okay?
Yes, sir. Well, I welcome that, Chris.
Definitely.
Good job tonight. Really enjoyed.
Thank you for having us.
Nah, thank you guys. Like I said, this is the representation I want to start seeing more of on YouTube, on social media. We can't really control what the agenda is putting out there, but we can control what we put on social media. And this is the kind of stuff that's changing the way people view our folks, and also the way our folks view our folks, to be honest with you. So yeah.
Good job.
So with that, everybody, please like, please comment, please share, please subscribe, please hit that like button and that notification button, because I thoroughly enjoy giving you guys free content. And with that, everybody, it's your boy Chris. Have a good night. Take care.